Good evening, guys. Good evening. So here I am back again. I know it's almost been 3 weeks since I did my last live stream. Feels like it's some time. Um, it's been a while since I've been getting into all this stuff, and whether it be Dan Wootton, Philip Schofield, and doing some other stuff on my channel. I want to see how I am for a live stream and see how we are with numbers. I was thinking I was planning on getting into this stuff with Dan Wootton, with now the police, both the Met Police and Police Scotland cleared him of any alleged criminal behaviour. So I'll get into that stuff. We'll just see how I am for numbers. I'll get the link sent out on Twitter, and then we can make a start. Longbow, hi. It's been a while. How you doing, Longbow? You doing good? Good stuff. Good stuff. Can you hear me okay, by the way? Is the sound okay? Good. I was about to share. Some people on my older video I'd done had said about that some issue in my microphone. Have you been following? Did you read about this stuff about Dan Wootton, Longbow? Lenny, hi. How you doing, mate? Doing good. It feels like it's been a while since my last live stream, right? Right. Good stuff. Yeah, brilliant. There was when that stuff came out about Schofield, Lanny, and the NDA that he done with the kid. I didn't feel like doing a video on it, but it was such a big topic last year that now it's not a big thing as much anymore. I think people no longer care or paying attention to it. But I mean, it's no surprise, right? What happened with Schofield? It's no surprise what he did. So I believe that he would have just straight up told a bold faced lie in those interviews, right? That he said, oh, the kid was fine. He believed that he was free to speak, but he didn't really care. He just wanted to get on with his life and all this just bullshit, right? Duocast, hi, how are you doing, mate? Doing good? I bet some of you are thinking, oh, when's he gonna start doing a live stream again? When's he gonna stop doing this wrestling stuff, eh? Jay, sorry to hear that, Longbow. And I know you've been on just a couple of the live streams before, but I hope you'll be well, mate. Just stay strong, Oh yeah, I mean, you still see like the tabloids will, you know, show Schofield, and you know what I mean. Schofield, oh, he's out and about at this place, that place, which is probably all by design, right? He's probably still got some media contacts that this is all arranged, that they're gonna, with the paparazzi, just to keep his name out there, you know. But well, Dan Wootton is still suspended, Julio Cast. That's the thing. Yeah, I guess what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, like right, Longbow. Yeah, I don't know about that whole thing, Lenny. I mean, it's a tough one, right, with the whole Amber Heard thing. I was more thinking that she might have been telling the truth, but then I don't know. The more I think about it, like you know, in court, right, when they were in the courtroom, Johnny Depp never looked at her, right? He kept his head down the entire time, right? And I think if somebody was really wrong, if someone really wronged you, right, and you know they wronged you, that's probably would be your reaction, right? That you would just have your head down. You wouldn't want to look at them the entire time, right? So I don't know. I was more thinking that what she was saying was true. I'm kind of leaning to maybe, well, maybe some events might have happened, but other things she made up. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I did see a video that Penny Bunny did, Julia Cast, but I was busy doing other things though, so I didn't check it out. But this stuff with Dan Wootton, so I was going to get into this stuff with Dan Wootton, so I might just actually share my screen with this and go through. It was The Guardian that reported on this. So I think I'm going to. This is the first time I've done this share screen thing. So hopefully you can see me okay. And with this stuff, yeah. So you've got Dan Wootton cleared of alleged criminal behaviour after 6-month investigation. So Metropolitan Police and Scotland Police decided to take no further action against the broadcaster. Dan Wootton cleared of all alleged criminal behaviour after the Metropolitan Police decided to take no action after a 6-month investigation. Last October, the Met said it was investigating the 40-year-old after the force was handed a 28-page dossier in June by journalists at Byline Times. Wootton admitted errors of judgment in his past, but has always denied criminal wrongdoing. Wednesday, it said he had been completely cleared after the Met and Police Scotland told him that no further action would be taken. In a statement issued through his lawyer, Wootton said he had been subjected to politically motivated witch hunt through the left wing and social media. And no doubt, listen, I don't like what Dan Wootton, but would have been a little bit of an agenda there with people who had a axe to grind with him. Absolutely. To get accusations made against him were completely spurious lies designed to destroy or actuate. You said, I can't even say that word. I've never heard that word before. Actuated. Is that the word? Actuated? Bloody hell. Never heard that word in my life. I've now been completely cleared in 2 investigations by the Metropolitan and Scottish Police who have confirmed they will be taking no further action. While I knew this would always be the outcome, the process is now the punishment, with social media acting as the executioner. Now he's going into stuff about Margaret Thatcher. If it falls to me to be the champion of those rights, then so be it. It's a fight I'm more than willing to take up, not just for me, but for all of us. Saying that cancel culture had amplified the allegations. I've been thinking about the current state of social media where any allegation can be made in an attempt to get someone cancelled, but it is impossible to defend yourself against thousands of trolls. I, like all fallible human beings, have made errors of judgment in the past, but the criminal allegations made against me are simply untrue. With this stuff, I don't know. I mean, I've told you how I feel when it comes to Dan Wootton, but I mean, the whole thing about criminal wrongdoing, I mean, you know, there was the sexual assault allegation, and with that allegation, there was one particular allegation that this guy had been an escort, and that Dan Wootton had, I believe, he had drugged him and sexually assaulted him. But a lot of people said that this guy, they looked into his past and that, you know, he had had problems, run-ins with the law. I think he stole money from his own mother and stuff like that. He had done some time in jail. So, but that's the thing, not to say that that was untrue. But when, you know, Dan Wootton's lawyer, they're going to do everything in their power to, you know, to obviously protect their client and just totally destroy him, rip that guy to shit. So it could have been true that, you know, we don't know. But they've done their investigation. They said they haven't found any criminal wrongdoing. It's not just the Met Police, but Police Scotland as well. So there must have been, I guess, stuff that happened in Scotland. I don't know, but it was maybe something that would have been in Glasgow or something. I think that one was at the escort was something that happened in Glasgow, though, I believe. Can you remember Julio Cass? But so I guess that's why Police Scotland got involved. There was something, an allegation from something that took place in Scotland. Yeah, you're getting into the Vince McMahon stuff, Lenny. Well, I've been covering some of that stuff in my videos, you know. Yeah, I'm sure it was not some award show, some MTV award show from Julio Cass that was in Glasgow. I think that's what that was. But I suppose it's that thing of the criminal behavior. I mean, but Dan Wootton, you know, I mean, from what they did their digging, right? And it looked like it was like just, it was undisputed, right? You couldn't dispute it that Dan Wootton had been catfishing, right? And he had done the whole thing. What was it? The Martin Brannan thing, or what was it? Was it a woman he'd done a catfish with, like, but I can't remember the name. Was it like her name was Chelsea or something? But again, you know, there might have not been simply not enough evidence, you know. And in the end, when it comes down to just a he said, she said thing, then, you know, what actually happened and what you can prove, they are two kind of, you know, different things there. But I mean, catfishing happens all the time, right? But then there was more than just that. It was like the kind of, you know, you know, all that stuff that was going on about filming them and getting them to do, you know, the whole stuff with the modeling and filming them having sex. So there must have been some things in there that was criminal behavior. You know, one thing, if you're going to catfish someone, it's still fucked up, right? It's still strange or a bit weird, or weirdo if you do that. But again, there was more stuff there with Dan. There was a lot more there. Yeah, I know. I mean, I feel a certain way about it, Julio Cass. I mean, yeah, okay, they've done their investigation and they've cleared him. But again, I'm not entirely sure, you know. I mean, I've done videos on this before. You know how I feel about it, you know. And, you know, I said before that, you know, people at GBUs were going to try and defend them, right? I mean, it's a little bit different because I guess Dan, they fucked up. He fucked up with the whole Lawrence Fox, who would want to shag that thing, right? Because, you know, I've looked into GBUs and I've discussed whether they're really for real or the controlled opposition. And I mean, it seems like they're blatant Tory shells now, right? GBUs, with having Liz Truss on, you know, all the other Tory people, Johnston, they've had a thing with Rishi Sunak. They don't seem to be, you know, like a true channel for free speech, right? But they seem to kind of wash their hands of him. You know, they suspended him, got rid of Lawrence Fox, and then, you know, buddy Calvin Robinson, you know, he decided, hey, I'm not coming back on if Dan's not brought back, and then they suspended him, and then they ultimately let him go. But I'm just looking back at all the comments. So you say you believe Johnny Depp 100%. I think there's actually something a Vice have done a documentary on the whole Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial. I think her lawyer was talking on that, Amber Heard's lawyer. But there's some stuff here on so Byline Times have reported on this as well. So with Byline Times, they report that 2 police forces to take no further action against Dan Wootton. As GBU's presenter reveals, Police Scotland as well as the Met were investigation. And it says that Byline Times has not previously reported on any investigation into the journalist by Police Scotland. Presenter Dan Wootton yesterday revealed for the first time he was under investigation by Police Scotland, as well as the Metropolitan Police. He announced that probes by both have been concluded. Byline Times sought clarification from Police Scotland about this decision, and a spokesperson this afternoon said our inquiries are now complete and no report will be submitted to the proper fiscal at this time. We reserve the right to review this decision in the future, and should any new information become available or reported, this will be fully investigated. And it says here, Byline Times has not previously reported on any investigation by Police Scotland. A Metropolitan Police spokesman confirmed that it was taking no further action regarding unspecified allegations of sexual offences committed in his 40s. Officers assessed all information established whether any criminal offence had taken place. An investigation was commenced into these allegations. All parties involved have now been advised that no further action will be taken. There were no arrests during the investigation. GBUs has not commented, but Wootton remains suspended from the channel following a misogyny row last September over an on-exchange he had with actor-turned-activist Lawrence Fox about a female journalist. It comes amid a continuing internal investigation involving external lawyers by Wootton's firm Use UK, publisher of The Sun, relating to his time working there between 2008 and 2021. A spokesman for the company confirmed that London law firm Kingsley Napley were still interviewing former colleagues. It's not clear whether UK will make all of its findings public. Doubt that very much. Per a letter from Sun's editor-in-chief Victoria Wootton to the House of Commons Digital Media and Sports Committee, which asked her about the Wootton affair last July. So with Byline Times, they are right. Byline Times didn't report on this investigation by Police Scotland because I think Byline Times, they were just getting into the whole stuff with the catfishing and what went on from that. They didn't report on that guy, the escort, about the drugging and the sexual assault. They didn't report on that one. But I still think Byline Times reporting on this is kind of their way of saving face. I feel like Byline Times, they've found that no criminal behaviour, right? No alleged criminal behaviour of the police. Byline Times, with this investigation and how much they're involved in it, pushing this, right, with Wootton, they probably feel in their face a little bit. So this is why they've, posted this article. They're saying, well, we never did that about Police Scotland, but then Dan revealed that Police Scotland looking into this. That's probably more of a trying to save any kind of face, but the same token, that they didn't report on that allegation with the escort, which maybe was a sign there that guy wasn't all that credible. Maybe there was contact there with the guy. I don't know, but maybe in their mind they decided no, this isn't. Like they were unsure. They questioned his credibility and his story. Byline Times I know is more left wing. They bought into the COVID narrative. They buy into climate change and all that. But again, was there a bit of an agenda there with Byline Times? Yes. Does that mean the stuff that they had reported in Dan Wootton was untrue? No, I don't think so. Anyway, but I hear you, Longbow. Dan Wootton is tabloid poo. Yeah, Calvin Kenzie's just as bad. I know, Lanny. I know. Can you see that, Lenny? Do you think there'll be some questionable stuff there with Piers Morgan? I mean, okay, he might be into phone hacking and some other sketchy behaviour, but I don't know. Beyond that, he strikes me as somewhat harmless, but I could be wrong. Uh, by the way, Longbow, I remember you. Were you? Was it that video that I did on Rangers when Michael Beale got the sack? That was the first video you saw of me, right? Am I right? Am I wrong? Yeah, yeah. I had a feeling, Longbow. I had a feeling. But the thing about Dan Wootton was he had done a crowd fund for legal fees. Typical, right? I mean, remember bloody Calvin Robinson, right? Who got £30,000, right, to help pay his bills, and then he fucked off on a holiday to Florida, right? Shortly thereafter. But I was trying to see that I was looking at something on that about the crowd fund. I wouldn't give him a penny ever, even if somebody put a gun to my head and told me to. But yeah, because it was a guy by the name of Shane Reaction said on Twitter, "Good day to remind people Dan Wootton used social media to crowdfund legal action against those who allegedly defamed him, but the crowdfunder recently disappeared. Nobody was sued, and the 30,000 plus raised has been magically been unaccounted for." Yeah, because they had a crowdfunder as well, Byline Times, and they raised a hell of a lot more than Dan Wootton did, and then it kind of stalled for a while, Wootton's, and wasn't really raising any more money, and then it just went away. So, can people get their money back now? I mean, what will come of this? I mean, yeah, and Byline Times could be screwed. They could lose a hell of a lot of money and they'll get their arse sued to bits. Yeah, Michael Beale, Longbow. I mean, what the hell? I mean, Beale just doesn't come off all that likable, eh? Like, he does give you a bit of a salesman type vibe, right? Like a used car salesman. And, Beale, I didn't know until after he got sacked, the whole thing about Beale, going to a Rangers pub, mingling with the fans. And this was when Van Bronckhorst was under immense pressure, right? And I think, was it when Rangers played Aberdeen at Pittodrie and it ended up being a draw, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I'm surprised that he got the job at Sunderland because I don't know. I mean, as apparently he's not going back to like QPR to be a development coach or some shit. Or some people just get this unwarranted hype, don't they, in the game? And it's like they've never really did anything. I never remember Michael Beale's name standing out as like a great player. And I get it. People can be great coaches that weren't great. I never heard of Beale when he was at Rangers. I didn't know he was like, like how they made out like he was the brains behind the whole thing with the operation with Gerrard and them winning winning the league finally after all those years. But now Rangers are in not a bad place now. I mean, he's done a hell of a turnaround, Clement, eh? Well, think of us, Longbow. We've got bloody Neil Warnock, right? They've just decided to give up. Top. I don't think they're even thinking of Aberdeen could get top six. I think we just gave up. As long as we're not in that relegation battle, I think that's all Cormac's worried about now. I mean, Warnock's good banter, right? He's a good dude. I do like his interviews, right? Like refreshing to hear somebody so open, and he's quite witty. But I don't know, man. I don't know. We need to be striving for more. Aberdeen shouldn't be eighth in the bloody league. I don't know if you're still on Julio, Lenny, but any thoughts on anything? I mean, what's your take on the stuff with Schofield? I take it that didn't surprise you, right? Or any other thoughts on all the stuff with Dan Wootton? Oh yeah, I want to give him a chance. I think he's got some good ideas there of stuff that could work for Aberdeen. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Schofield probably knows the chances are quite slim, right? I mean, some people thought that Schofield's best shot would be like, I guess, the Jeremy Kyle route, that he might get on like a talk TV. And you never know. I mean, Piers Morgan's left talk TV, right? You know, he's so he might fill Piers Morgan's spot. I don't know if he would be like, he was seen as like the face of talk TV, right? Wasn't he, Morgan? So I don't know. Hi, Chris. Too Cold Scorpio. Is this something wrestling related, right? It's funny you mentioned Too Cold Scorpio. I'd read something that Too Cold Scorpio said that Vince, the wrestlers were at a bar back in 96, 97, and he'd said about Sable, right? He said, I'm gonna fuck that bitch one day. He had said about Sable. Don't know when, don't know how, but I'm gonna bang her, basically. Interesting. You say that name, Chris. I don't know what in relation to, but it's funny because I was reading something about that a few days ago. Yeah, I mean, Schofield was around in the 90s doing stuff, Lenny, but he never stood out to me as a good presenter. I mean, hell, I even liked Noel's House Party back in the day. I thought that was a quality show for Saturday night TV, you know? But Schofield never stood out to me, though. Yeah, we can talk wrestling related things. We talk about anything on here. I've been getting into all that kind of controversy and the dark side of wrestling and all the stuff, allegations with McMahon, with Flair. I mean, give me your take first off. What do you think about this whole thing with Vince McMahon and Janelle Grant, Chris? It was Noel's House Party that I liked Longbow, but it was, I mean, he was around, he was away for a while, but I always felt like it was strange that he just kind of vanished out of nowhere, Noel Edmonds, and then what was it, 6 years later that they 6 years later they did the was it Deal or No Deal? I just googled Too Cold Scorpio and you just gave me that name. I was thinking, shit, he hasn't passed away, has he? Something here about Too Cold Scorpio. Crispin Law stopped Too Cold Scorpio from murdering Hawk in North Korea. Yeah, I think Hawk had been quite racist towards Too Cold Scorpio. Yeah. I mean, I think overall, Chris, I feel that she is. No worries. I feel she is telling the truth, you know. I mean, I feel that Vince revealed to everybody in the world through that character what he was really like. And, you know, it all started. I mean, it all goes back to the stuff with Trish Stratus, right? Because before that, he never really did anything. There was no other relationship on screen there with any of the women. But then that stuff with like the Trish storyline, right? And it's pretty fucked up, isn't it? Because it's like the whole thing of like, you know, he screams on, you know, to Linda, I want a divorce. And then was it a week later she has a breakdown? And when he's told on the phone by his son Shane she's having a breakdown, he's like looking into the, remember he has that real creepy look. He's looking in the mirror, smiling. And wasn't that whole storyline as well? It was like he was drugging her to keep her like in a like that sedative type, and she was in the wheelchair. Like he was keeping her like in like that trance like state by like with the medication, right? That was proper fucked up storyline, right? But I mean, the stuff with the Janelle Grant thing, though, I mean, some of the stuff you think, Christ Almighty. I mean, taking a dump on a woman's head, it's like goodness me. And you know the thing about Janelle Grant, though, because it's come out, Chris, that what she was like late 30s, early 40s when she met McMahon, right? But you look at that photo that circulated all around online of Janelle Grant. There's only like one picture you can find of her, right? And it's like I swear, Janelle Grant to me looked like she could have passed for a woman in her mid 20s, not late 30s going on to 40, you know. So some people saying, well, could a woman in that's 39, 40 be groomed, be coerced? But I mean, she was in a very vulnerable place, you know. Both her parents had died, was going bankrupt, you know, was in a really rough place. I think some people are saying that when she met him, she was 38. So I believe she probably would be 42 now, Lenny, I think. Longbow, he was always a sleazebag. But I mean, again, I don't know when you around the time when you watched wrestling Longbow. I mean, I started watching it in the Attitude Era, going back to 2000. And you know, he was an integral part of the show. It was an entertaining character, you know. He's one of the more entertaining characters. And in terms of cutting a promo, being, you know, a larger-than-life personality, and being a great heel as well. He's arguably, he would probably go down as a top 3, top 5 best heels ever, I'd say, Mr. McMahon. And, you know, going back to 98, 99, the McMahon-Austin feud, he was on Raw every week, McMahon. He was like, what, on Raw every week, at least for what, 18 months solid, right? Right, yeah. She does look younger in the picture, for sure, yeah. Has a look of someone that, yeah, she looks sweet, maybe a bit naive, but, you know. Well, she got 1 million Longbow, but she was supposed to be paid 3 million, was got paid 1 million, and now I guess this is the reason why it's come public, you know. I mean, people are saying that Vince will settle, but I don't think so. I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. Because this came out with the stuff with Janelle Grant. Are we talking 3, almost 4 weeks ago, right? I think if Vince wanted this to settle, there was no way he wanted this to come out. I think Vince would have just settled it almost immediately. Think about the whole thing with P. Diddy and Cassie, right? When Cassie filed the lawsuit against Diddy for stuff that was quite similar, maybe a lot more, a lot worse, because, well, I mean, there is stuff of physical assault with McMahon and Janelle, right? But then I think it was a bit more worse in terms of how brutal it was, what Diddy was allegedly doing to Cassie. But anyway, though, Diddy settled the lawsuit in 24 hours. A day later, he settles, right? Was the quickest settlement in history, So people are saying that they think there'd be a settlement. I don't think so. I don't think there will be. But then this could just get more and more ugly and will just look terrible for McMahon and really just, destroy his legacy. It could just totally 100% destroy his reputation, because most people would say it looks like it's true, right? But then there's people that will try. I think there's the people that have that loyalty towards McMahon that they either they don't want to believe it, or deep down they know it's true, but still because he did something for them, or maybe even consider him a friend, they want to have his back. So it's kind of weird, isn't it? There, but people will say that McMahon in the text messages, that's not how McMahon talks, but he did still use some big words in those text messages, right? Like convulse, and there's another big word he used, but yeah, I guess Vince McMahon always was a piece of shit, right? But the whole thing about taking the dump on her head, though, I mean, that did shock me. I literally had to, when I couldn't believe that. I had to get up and leave the room and go for a walk. I was so stunned by that. I was like, Jesus Christ, And Paul Roma, former wrestler Paul Roma, the stuff that's even worse than the whole thing with Janelle Grant. That's worse. That's what he's saying. So did you follow WWE Lanny during the Attitude Era? Or were you watching it around that time? Yeah, the whole nails thing, Chris, is a little bit questionable, though, isn't it? Because he all of a sudden tried to claim that Vince McMahon sexually assaulted him, right? But was that just his way of trying to get, the whole thing about him not getting paid? He was getting screwed over his paid. He had enough. He snapped. He was either he punched McMahon or he was going to choke him out, and I don't know. I mean, it's well documented that he did something to him physically. I know that. And McMahon's a tough guy, but McMahon, a guy like that, I've seen that guy Nails, what he looks like. He wasn't going to do a thing to him, At the same time, Nails, though, once you've done that, there's no going back. You know what I mean? Because there's so many people in the business who felt like McMahon's fucked them over, and then they'll shut on him, but then they always go back, though. They're always waiting for the call, Oh, does he? Well, that's the thing, Lanny. I mean, look, I was a big fan of Dwayne The Rock Johnson growing up, right? Um, you know, if it came out that Rock was like a womanizer and he might have been cheating on his wife with other women, like that's quite bad. It's immoral. But I can't be on a big moral high horse because we're all got our mistakes. We make our mistakes, we have our vices. But again, that's different. But it would be pretty heartbreaking as somebody who was like a childhood hero of mine that if it came out he had sexually assaulted women. But we've never heard any stories like that about The Rock. Never at all. He's got a pretty clean, reputation in that respect. Well, I mean, it could be Lanny. It could be, and there might be a reason that he didn't fully pay the NDA, but then it was involved. He did it in this idea that it was. I mean, there's the whole thing about the NDAs that they weren't actually, that they're basically saying that they're not enforceable, and they weren't actually legitimate, proper non-disclosure agreements that a company, a legitimate one that a company would do, an organization would do, but they're not entirely forcible though when it comes to, in regards to stuff like sexual stuff, when it comes to harassment and stuff and what have you. I think that changed 2 years ago. There was like a Speak Out Act or something that changed that. So not all NDAs are fully, 100% enforceable. I mean, he could be getting set up though, Lenny. Maybe. John Nord. Oh, was he another wrestler, Chris? John Nord. I haven't heard that name. Or was he someone in the office? Oh yeah. The Berserker, I think. Chris, is that who it was? Is there not something similar? Because there was that whole story about Ric Flair who punched Eric Bischoff, right? And I believe it was Arn Anderson who watched the door when he went in, and he nailed Bischoff a couple of times while he was on his mobile phone. I just did a video on Ric Flair, Chris. So you maybe check that out in a bit. But there's stuff there with him though as well. Allegations. Think Dark Side of the Ring was that two and a bit years ago, right? Yeah, Nails was a convict, right? The gimmicks from back in the day that he was a convict coming out in an orange jumpsuit. But then why would you have the gimmick of being a convict when you're not in prison, you're now a professional wrestler. Some of the gimmicks back in the day, like a bloody tugboat, the sailor. But then I suppose you had the Big Boss Man, but he was. I mean, hey, big Boss Man. I like Big Boss Man back in the Attitude Era, and like when he came back in '98 and they revamped him and he was like the black SWAT style gear and the shades. I thought that was cool. He was, to me, an underrated character, the Big Boss Man. Yeah, it's coming. It's like, it's not the big buff Vince McMahon of before, Lanny. It's like he's 78 years old. He's now walking with a cane. You know, you see him, the jet black hair, the dye job that looks quite, it doesn't look good. He's got the little like Hitler mustache. It's like, I don't know, someone's off, someone's just off. Flair wanted a lot, Chris, I mean, Flair got upset at Jim Ross saying that stuff about how Ric Flair got a pass on the whole plane ride from hell incident. But I mean, let's be honest though, Jim was just saying the truth. You know what I mean? JR was just speaking the truth on that. That's crazy though. That stuff on the plane ride from hell though. Some of the stories the stuff that happened in there, like gee. He's been insane for a long time though, Lenny. He really has. The Vince McMahon character, the Mr. McMahon character, that was Vince. That was Vince. But some people would say he's even more crazier than the character. I would agree. I think so. Is that not just his way of getting out of all those allegations, though, that happened with him? There's something similar. I mean, Jimmy Snuka had that, but then with the whole murder allegation, Chris will know about that. Jimmy Superfly Snuka. And then around the time where they had arrested him over that, I think it was 2 or 3 years later, he passed away. I remember watching a confidential documentary they did on Jimmy Snuka, and they mentioned about him like taking drugs, doing cocaine. He seemed like a nice, kind enough guy. I had no clue though about the whole. I mean, I hadn't heard about that until years later. And I mean, there's even stuff there with that. People could do some digging on that. That Vince was the one, that protected his ass. And Vince paid off the police to get it to go, get it to go away. Yeah, that's true, Chris. That's true. It's interesting, Chris. I remember that on that as well. I think initially Rock was quite reluctant to say anything about it, about his uncle, when that happened, when he passed away. I remember him saying something about he said it. Oh, Tamina asked me to post something, right? Which he was kind of making clear that it wasn't his call to do it. It was Tamina, the daughter of Snuka, of Jimmy Snuka. But then later on, a day or two later, he did post something about him that was seemed quite genuine and heartfelt, But it was like the thing with Jimmy Snuka, it was like he was married at the time, but then he was another guy that was big with womanizing, had other girlfriends. Rocky Johnson was the same. Rocky Johnson to Lenny, it was like the Kyle Walker, the footballer. He was living a double life. He had kids with another woman. He could have had a few love childs. Well, that's the thing, Lanny, because the thing with Snooker, right? This is 1983, right? WrestleMania was in 1985. Vince realized if this comes out that one of my top guys is a murderer, that could kill the Federation. We could be done. Yeah, and that point they're coming up the whole thing with the Rock and wrestling connection. They're doing the whole stuff with Cyndi Lauper. You got Andy Warhol that's at the Garden shows. So they would have been very worried about how that would look on the company, that one of the top guys is a murderer. So Vince probably made it a point to go out of his way to get that shit covered up. Wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, on this stuff, guys, any final words, final thoughts, not just with this Dan Wootton stuff, but all this controversy with wrestling, with McMahon and everything. Any final thoughts, guys? Just thinking of maybe just wrapping this up in a couple minutes' time. I think overall there is a bit of a decline with wrestling, you know. No, thanks, Chris. I appreciate this. I appreciate this. I'll be back. I'm planning on doing another video that I might have up in a few hours' time. Looking at the whole TKO Endeavor thing, you know. But I appreciate you coming on. Yeah, wrestling's been in decline for years, Lanny, for about 20-something years, you know. People talk about there being a wrestling boom now, but it's not the big thing, the big cultural impact, like within pop culture that like WWF had in the 90s, like how it was with South Park and Jerry Springer and stuff like that. No, I don't think the characters are as good, Lanny. No, I mean, you know, they put a guy like Roman Reigns having the belt for 3.5 years, and we're all supposed to lap it up like, oh, this is so brilliant. It's like, nah, you know. I mean, imagine that. I mean, imagine the attitude era of Austin just kept the title and was champion for 3.5 years. There wasn't all the trials and tribulations. There wasn't all the, could actually Austin lose to Undertaker? Could actually Austin lose to Kane, to Rock, to Mankind, to Triple H? And he just kept the belt for 3.5 years. It would have been shit, right? Yeah, MMA, that played a part in it as well, Chris. Yeah. It's funny because Shane McMahon wanted Vince to buy UFC, right? But Vince didn't want to do that. And that might have played a part in there being a bit of a falling out for a while. Listen, Longbow, it's sports entertainment. We know it's a fix. We know the outcomes are predetermined, but, you know, don't be one of these ignorant people that go, oh, it's fake, it's this, it's that. It's like, yeah, they're not always punching each other in the face. And that was real. You know, somebody would be out cold within 10, 20 seconds or maybe even dead. But when they're getting slammed and powerbombed on the canvas, that bloody hurts. That is not some gym mats that they're landing on. Yeah, but Mick Foley still wants to do another match, though, Lenny. I think he wants to get in the ring on his 60th birthday and have a match. Yeah, Pamela Anderson. She was involved briefly, Lenny. I know. Yeah, she's probably at her peak. That was peak Pamela Anderson, right, Lenny? And then they brought in Jenny McCarthy as well? Yeah, I think Jenny McCarthy, she accompanied Shawn Michaels, but then Pamela Anderson accompanied Diesel. But then both the girls, you know, posed with the babyface Diesel at the end. Are they still doing that World of Sport thing, Lenny, at Longbow? Is that World of Sport thing still on? World of Sport goes back to the old days of bloody, you know, Mick McManus, Jackie Pallo, Giant Haystacks, Big Daddy. That was back in my dad's day, you know. No, of course, it's all about the money. It's a multi-million, billion global industry. I mean, people can shit on it and make a joke about it, but there's people laughing all the way to the bank. You know what I mean? So, but no, on that note, so thanks for everybody that came on. Lenny, Julio Cass, Longbow, Chris, I appreciate it. So I will be back with some more content soon. I'm going to keep it doing the wrestling stuff and keep with that. I did see it, Lenny, and it was okay. I mean, I liked Gladiators as a kid, so I probably preferred the old school Gladiators, but the girls look attractive. I can't quite remember Diamond, but yeah, they look nice though. They look good. But thanks for everybody who came on. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to have a video uploaded soon, a U one about looking into this stuff for Rock and Nick Khan in TKO. But thanks for everybody who came on. I'm going to try and be a little more frequent doing live streams as well. So stay tuned for that. And maybe we might even do some wrestling related stuff because I'm getting a bit more subscribers and views now talking about stuff involving wrestling. But thanks very much for now, guys. Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the evening and take care. So thanks. Bye.